Good morning and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning at the National Press Club. I'm Daryl Kimball, Executive Director of the Arms Control Association. We're a little behind schedule by a couple of minutes, but I'm informed that our starting keynote speaker, Jake Sullivan, is walking on his way, leisurely walk this late spring morning. So he should be here shortly. And I'm going to offer some introductory remarks today before I turn things over to our esteemed board chair, Tom Countryman, who will introduce Jake Sullivan. I want to thank everybody for coming. This is a great crowd coming together at a very important time for this version of the Arms Control Association's annual meeting, Reducing Nuclear Threats in a Time of Peril. And as many of you know, over the 5-decade lifespan of our organization, just last year here in this room, we celebrated our 50th anniversary. The Arms Control Association is very proud to have played a part in milestone efforts to end nuclear testing, prevent proliferation, secure nuclear materials, slow the arms race, reduce deadly nuclear arsenals, and lower the risk of nuclear Armageddon. But as I'm sure you'll agree, this is not a time to be complacent. It's not a time to rest. It's a time for action because today the nuclear threat is higher than at any time since the depths of the Cold War. In 2022, last year, Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, threats of nuclear weapons use reminded us all and people around the world who'd never thought of this issue before that the threat of nuclear war has not disappeared. Earlier this year, the Kremlin suspended implementation of the last remaining bilateral nuclear arms control agreement between the United States and Russia, New START. And for now, there's no bilateral regular dialogue on nuclear risk reduction or talks on a new nuclear arms control framework to replace New START, which is going to expire on February 5, 2026. And at the same time, tensions between the United States and China continue to mount. And of course, leaders in Beijing, Washington, Moscow continue to move forward with expensive and in many cases unnecessary nuclear modernization efforts. And in China's case, a nuclear weapons expansion program. And it's quite clear to many of us working in this field at this moment that without serious new arms control restraints, we're looking at a 3-way nuclear arms competition for several years ahead in the future. So this is a crucial moment. And if that wasn't enough, we have other challenges, which we'll talk about during today's program. In the wake of the calamitous 2018 decision by President Trump to pull out of the successful Iran nuclear deal, we've got renewed concerns about the course of Tehran's nuclear weapons program and its potential to become something worse. And in the absence of effective diplomatic engagement with North Korea, our friend Kim Jong-un, who I've not been exchanging love letters with, by the way, he's been diversifying his country's nuclear arsenal, creating proliferation pressures amongst allies, particularly in South Korea. Now, another challenge we have is that in Congress, some members are responding with the wrong response. They and others in the nuclear weapons establishment are calling for the United States to abandon nuclear arms control and nonproliferation diplomacy, a bilateral effort that has been decades in the making, and they're calling for the United States to prepare to increase the size of its nuclear arsenal for the first time in decades, and to develop new types of nuclear weapons designed for nuclear warfighting scenarios. So I think we're going to hear about some of this from National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan today, and how the administration sees these issues and how the president seeks to address the dangers of renewed nuclear arms competition, proliferation, and how to jumpstart nuclear arms control and disarmament diplomacy. Now, our organization and many others believe this is not the time to build up or to redouble efforts to build up nuclear weapons, but it's a time to redouble our efforts to engage in pragmatic nuclear arms control. and disarmament diplomacy to rally the world against threats of nuclear weapons use, which is something that our lunchtime keynote speaker, Ambassador Alexander Komet, I think will be addressing. And we need to find ideas and put forward pragmatic solutions and engage others in this cause. I think everybody here at this particular meeting is involved in some way in one or another or several non-governmental organizations, institutions, members of the media who are here have a role in providing information to the public about the dangers, and we need to be active in the weeks and months ahead. And so I hope today's panel discussions and keynote presentations are going to be illuminating, inspiring. Yes, they're going to be a bit troubling, but I hope it's going to stimulate more conversation, not just in this room, but beyond with our audience online and across the country. And that's because the American people, who have always supported common sense, arms control, disarmament measures between the United States and other nuclear-armed countries, they're looking for responsible national leadership to address these growing dangers. There was a very recent YouTube national poll asking Americans what they thought the major causes of the potential end of life on Earth might be. What was the highest ranking topic? It was nuclear weapons and nuclear war. Amongst Democrats, independents, Republicans, people on the younger age range, middle age range, older age range. So this is something that the American public is ready to looking for solutions for, and our organizations, the experts in the room, are people who can provide some of those answers. The other thing I want to point out is that we're going to need more bipartisan support from Congress for solutions to deal with all these different challenges. Nuclear arms control has historically been a bipartisan effort. Yes, there have been critics against arms control through the years, but success has been achieved by Republican presidents and Democratic presidents, and support and ideas from Congress have been critical. And we're going to need more of that in the coming weeks and months and years. And I'm very happy that we do have some leaders in Congress who are looking for effective solutions, who are working with their colleagues to educate them about the risks and to circulate and socialize ideas about how these problems can be addressed. And I'm very happy that we have with us Congressman Don Beyer, who's one of the founding co-chairs of the Nuclear Weapons and Arms Control Working Group, which was established in 2021. Don, thank you for being here. Don, of course, is one of our local representatives, being from the District of Columbia. Without voting representation, I count you as one of my representatives in Congress, so thank you very much. Now, American presidents cannot, of course, by themselves solve major global challenges all by themselves. But history shows over time, if we look back on the history of the nuclear age, that there's no substitute for effective American presidential leadership in reducing nuclear dangers. And that's one reason why we've invited President Biden's National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, to speak here today. He should be arriving very shortly. I don't have any updates from my team yet, but he's walking from the White House, as I said at the beginning. And in just a moment, I will ask him and our board chairman, Tom Countryman, to come up to the podium. But in the meantime, we're going to take a very short break until we know that he is in the building. So please take a moment, stay in your seats, and we will resume in just a second.